Welcome to the Cynthia Nyamai Show. Now, the International Women's Day is celebrated every year on March 8th. This gives us time to reflect about the challenges that women are facing. What are the opportunities? What are the solutions? And even the progress made so far. This month on the Cynthia Nyamai Show, we have decided to celebrate the woman. Our guest today is a champion for women in business. Let's find out a little bit about her. The theme for International Women's Day on 8th March is Gender Equality Today for Sustainable Tomorrow. Today, we are joined by the founder of the Commonwealth Business Network Kenya, Nana Wanjau, to commemorate the cultural, political, and social-economic achievements of women. Thank you, Nana Wanjau, for joining us today. Now, you're so passionate about women, the cause for women, and I'd like to find out, where did this come from? Is there an experience you probably went through in your career or growing up? Why are you so passionate about women?
Well, that's very simple, actually. I was raised by my grandmother,
Yes.
Anne-Marie, from a small village called Bukoba. And Bukoba is at the shores of Lake Victoria on the Tanzanian side. And from the time I was 4 days old, my mother, who was taking was in medical school in Makerere, took me to my grandmother, and I breastfed on my grandmother.
Yes.
And I had really a happy childhood until my grandfather died when I was approximately 5 years old. And then life just became something else. I saw from a child's eye what ostracization means, widow's ostracization means, where you no longer belong to your family because your parents married you off.
Yes.
And yet now you have no husband, so you no longer belong into your matrimonial community. And we spent many, many days of horrific experiences,
Yes.
hiding, from hostile relatives. And then eventually, my aunties organized for my grandma and I to relocate to a different village. Not that it was any better, because with time, again, we were one day asleep and we heard people slashing the banana plantations, where in Bukoba,
Yes.
we had banana,
Yes.
banana land. And they were slashing the banana plantations to get us out because we are foreigners in their eyes. So yes, I grew up in that space of feeling the hostility because
Yes.
my grandpa had died. As simple as that.
And that's what made you a foreigner?
That's what made us foreigners on both sides of the community. It's like there was no man's land. We really don't belong anywhere. And yes, my grandma obviously did try to shield me, but you can only shield children so far. There's no way you're going to shield a child if the
Yes.
banana plantation is being slashed.
Yes.
And we are hiding under the bed in darkness for fear of our lives. You can't really shield a child from that. So really, that's where my passion for specifically working with ostracized widows came from.
And do you feel like growing up, because you're seen as an intruder, there are probably many things in life and opportunities that you missed out on?
Well, they say life, you can only connect it backwards.
Yes.
When you are in it, you really do feel that life is unfair. Why me? But as an adult right now, Cynthia, I can tell you, every good, every bad, every evil has something to do with who I am. Even the atrociousness of hiding under a bed in a dark, small madhouse with my grandma is the reason I'm out there building homes for
Yes.
ostracized widows.
Yes.
So yes, during the time, obviously, when you're in it, it is why me, what did we do, God, to you? But when these lessons, we carry them through life. And if you permit the universe to work through you, you find goodness coming out of evil. So yes, you can connect dots backwards and say it was all good. What somebody meant for evil actually eventually turned out for good. So, but to answer your question directly, I cannot take back anything that happened to me, because everything that has happened to me, somehow I have channeled it into good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like now the projects that you've had over the years with women.
Yeah.
Are you surprised when you sit and listen to them? Because I've watched some of the videos as you're working with them. And I can tell you're quite emotional even as you're listening to them. Are you still surprised to find that the same issues you went through back then are the same issues that women are currently going through even now in 2022?
Surprised, no, but disappointed, yes. Disappointed, definitely. And because now I work on a Pan-African platform, I can tell you that the issues of the woman on the ground in Busia, in Nairobi, in Johannesburg, in India are the same. I mean, different platforms. You know, the woman in Busia on the grassroots, that's a different platform. The woman in Nairobi is facing the same issues, different platforms. We're actually having this conversation. The woman in Malaysia is facing the same issues, different platforms.
Yes.
So surprised, no. Disappointed in the sense that it's really taking us a long time to evolve into humanity. Where we are, we talk largely in all conferences now, the big words are gender, you know, closing the gender gap.
Yes.
And, you know, we know data says 135 years before sub-Saharan Africa will ever close the gender gap.
Yes.
And I try to be optimistic that we should do our work the way Wangari Maathai said. Like a hummingbird, you do the little that you can. So my disappointment is that, yes, it is taking us a long, long time to eliminate some of these cultural demeaning. We call them culture, we call them our way, you know, but they're demeaning and they're not uplifting the women. So disappointed indeed.
Yes, yes.
But that makes it even more the reason we have to keep doing the little that we are doing. Because imagine if we stopped. And with the COVID, we've taken a few years back. You know, it is estimated we've probably taken a decade back in the work we had started with gender parity. But we can't stop. Otherwise, then what do? Do we roll back and die? No, we keep doing what we are doing.
Yes. This year's theme, as we're celebrating Women International Day, and you've talked about gender parity, is actually gender equality today for sustainable tomorrow. What does that really mean for sustainable tomorrow, and what role does gender equality play?
Exactly what I've just said. For sustainable tomorrow.
Yes.
We cannot roll over and die today. Otherwise, there is no sustainable tomorrow. So the little we are doing in different spheres and with different partners, and by the way, it is happening. It's happening in the private sector. It's happening in the government, civil society. Everybody is doing their bit to close gender gap and to reach to equality. Sustainable, we must work together.
Yes.
All these parties must come together, sit at the table, round table, discuss what's working, what's not working, in order for us to have a sustainable future.
Yes.
Otherwise, alone as civil society, alone as Power Woman International, alone as government, nobody can do it alone. So for it to be sustainable, all the entities, all the players need to sit at a round table and find a way that unifies us to close that gap.
Yes.
So I think it's a beautiful theme this year because it forces everybody to come to the table in order for us to be able to talk about sustainability.
Yes. Yeah. A few years ago, you talked to me about the Commonwealth Business Women Network. And I have to be honest, the first time you told me about it, I was like, okay, why Commonwealth? Because when I think about Commonwealth, the first thing that comes to my mind, and I remember we had a WhatsApp group, but the first thing that comes to mind is Commonwealth. We think British, we think the Queen, we think about colonial times. Yeah. So at first I was like, I need you to tell me a little bit more about Commonwealth. I'll let you answer that question after the break, coming up shortly. Welcome back. We're so glad that you could join us. Now, our guest today, Nana, shared her story about growing up and losing her grandfather and was ostracized. She had no one to protect her apart from her grandmother, and years later, she's been working with women who are going through the same in Kenya. And we're just talking about the Commonwealth Business Women Network. And I told you about the first idea that I had was Commonwealth, the Queen, colonization. So you tell us what the Commonwealth, let's even start with the Commonwealth. What is the Commonwealth all about?
The Commonwealth is a community of 54 member states. And Kenya is a very, very valued member of the Commonwealth. They are governed by what we call the Commonwealth Charter, which is a way of operating as the Commonwealth. The 54 heads of state agreed that as the Commonwealth, this is our way of being. Another beautiful thing about the Commonwealth, although it is not officially a trading bloc, the fact that we have similar laws, even legally, we have forums that dictate the way we do business. Intra-Commonwealth trade costs businessmen and women 25% less to do business within Commonwealth countries because of what we have set up. So for any business person, male or female, when you're told it's going to cost you 21% less, that's a place you want to look at. And it's interesting I'm here because last week we were in Kilifi as Commonwealth Business Women's Network, working with KEMFRI, the Kenya Marines Institute. We are training 200 women in the fisheries industry on financial management, financial literacy, on health and well-being. We had 2-day forums with these women where they shared their challenges. One of the challenges the women shared with us is that the omena, the small fish, comes from Kisumu region and it's transported to Kilifi, and in between it's the middlemen. So by the time this omena reaches Kilifi, they barely can afford or make profit out of it. So what Commonwealth Business Women's Network, that's why I want to bring it, we connect now the women in Kisumu who are on the ground at the beach receiving that fish to be the partners of the women in Kilifi so that they eliminate the middlemen. So literally on the ground, these are the women we are working with to practically bring Commonwealth onto the ground. So there's a lot of beauty in what we are doing.
But are you then opening up for them intertrade to be able to go even outside Kenya, other Commonwealth countries, Kenya, Uganda, and so on?
For the woman on the ground that I've just described, the women we are working with in fisheries industry in Busia, Kisumu, and Kilifi, that woman, we are at the basic level of educating them on financial literacy, bookkeeping. How do you ensure that you are bankable? How do you get together 5-6 of you as a unit, form an association, put your books together, approach a bank for financing? That's where we are with that woman. Phase 2 of that, working with that woman, is now value add, packaging and international markets. For this particular woman, we are still at the basis. However, in Nairobi, we are working with partners like Keproba to train women who are already successful, who already have products in the market.
Yes.
However, the products are not meeting international standards. They can't compete on international markets. Now, Keproba, as a government agency, their role is to get these women, take them through a year of training, and it covers everything, which is packaging, international markets, presentation, in order for them to be able to compete. So those are the kind of partnerships that we formed as Commonwealth Business Women's Network.
Yes.
And the beauty about on even 2022 alone, we are already geared to take this Kenyan businesswoman at this level as they go through the training to Rwanda. Rwanda in June, we have CHOGM, which is the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting.
Yes.
That is an opportunity for the businesswoman to go and showcase her products in Rwanda and compete with other Commonwealth countries who will also be showcasing their products. Mm-hmm. September of this year, we are in Birmingham. Again, taking the Kenyan businesswomen who have their products ready for international markets.
Talking about competitiveness, one of the things that we see as a challenge that business people talk about in Kenya is the cost of doing business. Do you lobby on behalf of Kenyan business women and have discussions on policy when it comes to some of the challenges that business women are facing?
Sitting at the table, that is one. However, our research reveals that there is a gap of awareness. There's a lack of awareness. The government actually has done quite a lot in easing the cost of doing business. And I'll give you an example. Let's take the East Africa community as a small example, because we are a small
Yes.
unit of countries. Policies already implemented on the ground say there are no tariffs. You can literally walk through the border to Rwanda, to Uganda, to Tanzania with no tariffs.
That's true.
There are also on the ground committees, intra-country committees that are now, have been tackling the non-tariff barriers. Mm-hmm. But there is a huge lack of awareness for the business women.
Yes.
They have no clue that now you can just walk through with your goods and services tariff-free within East Africa.
Yes.
And I hear they end up paying, but it's really bribery.
Yes, it is.
So what we have seen as Commonwealth Business Women's Network is let's take the role of closing that gap. So we have forums where we invite different stakeholders. Trademark East Africa is, we've worked with them. The government, Ministry of Trade, Dr. Simiu is a good friend of ours, yes, as a way of creating awareness of what is already on the ground. You've heard a lot about the women and youth funds. We've heard about the 30% e-procurement that is slotted for women only. How many women are taking up that 30%? Less than one. Why? Lack of awareness.
I recently went for a trip to the DRC where Equity Bank was trying to open it up for investors from Kenya. However, I noticed a majority of the investors were men. Why don't we have probably more women than men, or as many women as men?
I think if there's one thing that has made a major shift globally, is the realization that women from the initial job levels to middle management to boardroom, including the female voice, the female perspective, you get input from the youth, from the female mind, from the male mind, from different cultures. That's what builds an organization. And I believe that one single realization that we need more women on the board to have a different perspective of how this organization or this institution or this government can run is what has really helped in turning around the gender issue. But also let me touch on something, Cynthia. Let me bring this to home, environment. A woman's dollar touches 7 people. That's why we should be very, very all united and positively uplifting and empowering a woman. And we can do it all in season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it does make economic sense that, first of all, we've also realized that we've been working with half the population. Half. The other half.
So we've been only realizing half of our potential.
Yes. Now imagine if we empower the other half that we've ignored over decades. How powerful that is going to be, not just for the home, not just for the community or the country, for the globe, for the continent.
Yes, yes.
So it does make economic sense.
Let's talk about the Women's International Day that's coming up. And we know that the Commonwealth Business Women Network has a conference coming up. Tell us about that conference.
Oh, Kenya is very, very excited about the inaugural Commonwealth Business Women's Network Africa Summit. That just shows you that we Kenyan business women, we want to charter the way. You know, we don't want to be followers, we want to charter the way. So the inaugural summit is really a very, very great example of who the Commonwealth is. We are 19 Commonwealth countries in Africa. 12 countries are participating in the summit. If you look at the program, you realize that the speakers, the panelists, the keynotes are coming from across the Commonwealth countries in Africa. What is really exciting about this 2-day summit, it's on the 9th and 10th of March, is yes, we are going to have a lot of discussions around gender, around the environment, around youth, but there is something bigger that this summit is bringing together. We have a post-summit project called Train 10,000 Women in 2022. Train 10,000 women in 2022. In what areas? Financial management, government and leadership, governance and leadership, ICT, you know, and using IT as an enabler for your business, artificial intelligence. In 2022, this will be done across Kenya, across South Africa, across Rwanda, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just thinking about what you said earlier, that when a woman gets $1, it touches seven people. And I'm thinking 10,000 women. How many other people?
Can you see the economy scales there?
Last word from you. Encouraging women in business and going through difficult challenges. Yes.
Expect challenges in business, ladies. Why? Because every vision you have, you've never been there.
That's true.
You have never been there. Wherever you want to go today, you have never been there at a personal level, at a business level. What does that mean? It's like a child learning to walk. He has never walked before. She has never walked. She takes the first step, she stumbles. Does she stay on the floor? No. She takes the next step, takes 2 steps. That's business. Fear, no fear. But failure is learning lessons one at a time, taking you where you want to go.
Yes. Thank you. Now I can see you're ready to go on for another 1 hour. But thank you so much, Nana, for joining us today. Well, on the Cynthia Nyamai Show, we are celebrating women this month. Happy International Women's Day. What are you celebrating about women? What are some of the milestones? Would love to hear from you. Share with us on Twitter, on Facebook. The hashtag is the Cynthia Nyamai Show. We will be happy to share your thoughts and what you are celebrating on this Women's International Day. See you next time.